Okay, so today we are wrapping up our series, our 6-week series called You're Not the Boss of Me, where we are learning to say no to the emotions that compete for control in our life. We're learning to monitor our hearts. We all get told how to monitor our behavior and have those filtered, but sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to monitor our hearts. In fact, Jesus said this. He said that it is not the things that come into your bodies that defile you, meaning that puts you at odds with God. It is the things that come out of your mouth, the words that you say that, and where do those words come from? They come from within. They come from what's actually going on within our hearts, and those are the things that can put us at odds with people. And when we get put at odds with people that God loves, that is what can be put us at odds with God. You can put it another way, that that's where sin enters into our life. And so we began this series with this idea that our need of supervision, I'm sure you guys memorized this, our need of supervision may someday come to an end if we silence the toxic voices that come from within. And monitoring our emotions, monitoring our hearts is actually critical. It's so critical with our personal growth. It's critical to have healthy relationships around us as well. And while sort of doing this series, I just want to share a quote from an artist that was on a podcast, and this is what that quote says, and it's so profound. If you don't deal with your demons, they go into the cellar of your soul and lift weights. Let me read that again. I'm not talking about like literal demons, but if you don't deal with your demons, they go into the cellar of your soul and they lift weights. As in, if you don't deal with the stuff that's going on within, it doesn't just stay the same size. It doesn't just stay as that minor incident or that minor thing that happened to you as a child, or that conflict that you've been having with your boss or with your spouse. It doesn't just stay at that size, right? It goes into the cellar of our souls. Time doesn't heal all wounds, right? If you just say, oh, time is going to heal this, eventually it's going to come out. When things hit the fan in your life, when there is stress, when there is trouble, what you think time will heal won't heal. It's just those things are in the bottom of your soul getting jacked. They're lifting weights. They're getting big. And eventually they're going to come out even bigger than what they were to start with. And so one way to identify what needs to be dealt with is to pay attention to those emotions that compete for the control in our life, to pay attention to the emotions that control our moods and that control our mouths. And so in this series, we've talked about guilt, we've talked about anger, we've talked about envy, and we've talked about fear. And these are usually pretty easy emotions to identify. These aren't the hardest things to find. But today I'm talking about destructive emotions that disguise themselves as virtues. These emotions that are sort of like undercover. They disguise themselves as compassion. They disguise themselves as sympathy. They disguise themselves as care or concern. And sometimes they can disguise themselves as love. Because what we consider nice isn't always nice, is it? What we consider nice or the right thing to do isn't often the right thing to do. It's the easy option. It's the avoidance option, and I'll get into that in a moment. But the truth is, care doesn't always feel like caring, and love doesn't always feel loving. In fact, what love requires of us can sometimes feel completely opposite of love. But every good parent knows this, right? At some point in your parenting journey, you're going to have to do things that your kids are not going to like. And you're going to have to deal with the rage that comes on the other side from those kids because you put a necessary boundary in their life to prevent them from hurting themselves in the future. And in that moment, they just didn't understand. And you're dealing with the fury and the wrath in that moment. And in that moment, it might not feel like love. And in that moment, it doesn't feel like care. It feels the complete opposite. But you have to make those decisions as parents. You have to make those choices. We can't just give our kids everything that they want all the time because sometimes they just don't know what they don't know. And here's how this interacts with us as adults. It interacts with us as a fear of rejection, discomfort with conflict, apprehension around confrontations. These emotions disguise themselves as sensitivity and concern. I don't want to go and call that person out for their behavior because really it's not my business, right? I don't want to intervene in that person's situation because who am I to intervene? I'm going to be sensitive to what they're going through. I'm going to be concerned from afar. And what these things really are fear, discomfort, and apprehension. They're disguising themselves as love and caring, but what they really are fear, discomfort, and apprehension. And do you want fear to be the boss of you? Or discomfort or apprehension? No, none of us want that. And now there's another emotion that disguises itself. It puts on the invisibility cloak. It disguises itself as kindness or caring, but it isn't. Indifference. Indifference. It's not so much a feeling, but more it's a lack of feeling. It's a lack of feeling something where we should be feeling something. Have you ever had one of those moments when you're watching a rom-com and you're like, I normally cry at this moment, but I'm not? It's like, where is that feeling that's normally there? Or you go, I know I should be feeling something, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm feeling a little bit indifferent. So indifference is a lack of concern where there should be concern. A lack of concern where there should be concern. And we rarely own indifference. We rarely own. Nobody says, I don't care what happens to him or I don't care what happens to her. I really don't care what happens to them. We don't say things up front like that. Instead, we say things like, I shouldn't interfere. They haven't asked for my input. I see the road they're going on. It's very destructive, but I shouldn't interfere. I'm a bit afraid of what the outcome of my interfering will be. Or our favorite, it's none of my business. It's none of my business. His actions are going to put their marriage at risk, but it's none of my business. The way that they are spending more money than they actually have, and they're, going into immense amount of debt. They don't have a job. It's just none of my business, though. Let them suffer the consequences for their mistakes. Do you want indifference to be the boss of you? No, we don't want that. Do you want fear, discomfort, apprehension, and indifference to? No, nobody wants that. Because when you need somebody to mind your business because you're not minding your business very well, do you want them to listen to the voices of fear, of the voices of discomfort, of the voices of apprehension? And do you want them to be indifferent? We don't want that. It's uncomfortable when people call us out over some things, but in the end, it's what's best. If you're a Jesus follower, you can't listen to those voices because there's another voice, the Good Shepherd. There's the voice of the Good Shepherd whose instructions don't always feel good. And up front might not feel loving. And I'm going to read you, if you have to go early, I'm just going to read you like the drop the mic moment that Jesus says, but I'm going to give you context because at face value, you're going to be like, if you're not a Jesus follower, you're like, this is the very reason why I'm not going to become a Jesus follower right here. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault. How uncomfortable is that? Right? Who does that? If your brother or your sister, not your blood relative, but someone that you know, somebody that's in your community, somebody that you care about, if your brother or sister sins, go and point it out. How fun. People, who does that though, right? Who does this? People who care. People who say no to indifference. People say no to fear or discomfort. And so I want to give you the context to this, and there's going to be a parable in this message that I'm going to share, but you probably haven't equated this parable with the point that we're trying to make today. So Jesus is having a conversation between him and his disciples, and this is what he says. At that time, so Matthew, who's documenting this, he was there for all of this. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Right? Kids today, they like to say the word goat, like greatest of all time. They're pretty much going up and saying, who's the goat? Who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And the kingdom of heaven isn't something that's out there. The kingdom of heaven isn't something that's far away. The kingdom of heaven is that's something that Jesus was introducing on earth. A brand new value system which was in conflict with the kingdoms of this world. And they're saying, hey, Jesus, in this new thing that you're introducing, who's the greatest? And they're hoping that they'll say someone like, oh, Peter, you're the greatest. You're the greatest. John. They're hoping that they're going to hear one of their names, but Jesus responds with, he says, he calls a little child to him and place the child among them. So he's like, hey, can you just come up here? Can you bring your kid up here? And to which they thought, we didn't ask you who's the youngest. We didn't ask you who's the shortest. Jesus, who is the greatest? He said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never even enter into the kingdom of heaven. He now has their attention. They didn't get what they were expecting, and they're leaning in and they're listening to what Jesus has to say because this isn't going the direction that they thought it was going to go. And so now Jesus is going to begin teaching his teaching, which is so uncomfortable. He's going to land that uncomfortable command. He says, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in him, to stumble. So he's going away from just talking about kids, and he's talking about everybody now. It's not just about the children now. He's saying if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in him, those who are new to following him, those whose faith might still be young, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in him, to stumble, that is, to fall down, to trip up, to be thrown off course, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Okay, hyperbole much? Maybe. But he's using an extreme example to make an extreme point. He's not messing around. He's serious about this. Woe! We got to bring that back. Woe! Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, as in there are going to be things that we cannot control that are going to cause us to stumble. There are going to be things that cause us to be thrown off course. There are going to be illnesses. There's going to be things that we can't control, but woe to the person through whom they come. So there are things that we can't control, but woe to the person who is in control and causes the other person to stumble. Don't be somebody else's mistake. Don't be the reason they go off course or lose their way. Don't be the one where your name is remembered with a regret. If only I didn't meet this person at work. If only I deleted that person's message. If only I got rid of that. Don't be the one that when people think of your name, it's like, oh, I just wish I didn't meet that person. I wish I didn't choose to go out to the clubs with that person that night. Everything was fine until I met blank. How big of a deal is this? Well, Jesus again uses an extreme example. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, so he's going away from the things that causing other people to stumble, and he's bringing it back to you now. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. Now, we're not taking Jesus literally on this, okay? I don't want to see any cut off hands. If your hand or your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. And here's the key word though, and throw it away. And throw it away. Literally, no, but here's this point. Is there something in your life that you have control over that has the potential to trip you up? Deal with it. If there are things that are causing temptation in your life, don't be a fool. Deal with it. Throw it away. Get rid of it. Don't let it settle within your soul and get lifting weights. Deal with it. He continues. And if your eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out. That's fun imagery. And throw it away. There's the word again. And throw it away. If there is anything in your life that has the potential to have you stumble, to trip off, or to go off course, or to create regret, Jesus is saying, just get rid of it. Get rid of it from your life. And the reason why he uses such extreme measures is that God loves you so much that he would do anything to help you from getting tripped up in any area of your life. This is a big deal. Why? Because you're a big deal. I don't know if you heard, but you're kind of a big deal. It requires an extreme response because of his extreme love for you and for me and to his children. He says, it is better for you to enter life with one eye than to have two eyes and be thrown into the fire of Gehenna. Jesus is making a point that it is better to throw things away than to have your life being thrown away. It is better to throw the things away that are going to trip you up than to have your life thrown into chaos. Because you know this, when you stumble, when you trip up, your life can feel like hell on earth. When you when you allow something to cause you to trip up, when something makes you stumble and you become addicted to that substance. Addiction is beginning to rule your life. It is controlling your life. Whatever it is, your life feels like it's out of control. It's complete chaos. And you go, I just wish I never tried it that one time. I wish that person didn't introduce this to me. I wish I didn't respond to her text message. I wish I got her or him out of my contacts. I wish I could see my blind spots. And it becomes moments of regret because we chose to not deal with it when it was at the beginning. Isn't it true that when something causes us to stumble, if we look back, we go, I wish I could have prevented it when I had the opportunity to prevent it. Then Jesus switches gears and he gets really personal. So he's talking with his disciples. He's gone through really extreme metaphors and he makes it personal. He says, what do you think? What do you think about all this I'm saying? And I don't if you ever have people ask you, like, what do you think? And sometimes you go, I'll tell you what I think, because what you think is a lot better than I think. It'd be really cool to have Jesus ask you that, though. What do you think? And if I was there, I would go, Jesus, I'll let you handle this one. I don't want to say the wrong thing. He says, what do you think? And then he goes into a parable, which many of you are very familiar with. He says, if a man owns 100 sheep, and one of them wanders away, replace that word. One of them stumbles off. One of them gets tripped up. One of them loses its way. It's not like they were never a part of the herd at one point, but one of them stumbled away. Will he not leave the 99 on the hills and go to the one that wandered off? And everyone in the audience went, yeah, Jesus, that's exactly what we do. Of course, we'd go look for the one. And if he finds it, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. And I'll give you a really easy example to remember this by. If you lose a credit card, and you go and you look through your wallet, but look, I got 5 more credit cards that I can still handle. Right? I'm fine. I don't need to go find that lost credit card. That one is just lost. I'm going to leave it lost. Look at these 5 credit cards that I still have. We don't disregard the lost credit card. You do everything in your power to go and find the credit card. And then what do you do when you find it? You celebrate. You go, yes, I found my credit card and nobody took any money. Right? Because what? All of your attention, all of your focus wasn't on what you already had. Everything that you were thinking about was about what you had lost. And so Jesus is saying, if we find the one that was lost, truly I tell you, he is happier about that one sheep than about the 99 that did not wander off. And I don't know if maybe you're here in this room or you're watching online at another time, and someone invited you to come to church, or someone sent you the link to this video, and you haven't been to church for a long time. You stumbled off. Here's the good news. God is way more excited that you are here than me. He is far more excited that you are in this room. He is far more excited that you are watching this message than he is with me. And I'm a professional. Not really. Right? But he is so excited. Doesn't matter what your stumble was. Doesn't matter how far you've been wandering off or what caused you to trip up. All he is, he's so excited that he has found you, that you are not lost and that you have returned. Just like that lost credit card, there is a party that is happening. So this is personal for some of you. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. So in the same way, so this is coming after he's just talking about the lost sheep. In the same way, your Father in heaven is not willing that any of these little ones should perish. And perish means to get lost or ruined. I'm glad that Jesus feels this way, right? He's willing to come after us even when we stumble away. And at this point, his disciples were thinking, thanks for the teaching, Jesus. At this point, we could probably just end it there. Like, thank you, Jesus, that when we stumble, you will come and get us. And there is like, that's it. End of message. And Jesus is like, no, 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 no. When you see someone that you love, or you stumble, or that wanders off and get tripped up, he says, if your brother or sister sins, then you go and point out their fault. If you have somebody that's left the herd, if you have somebody that is the lost sheep, here's what Jesus didn't say. He didn't say, if your brother and sister sins, pray for them. Because that's easy, isn't it? You know what? I'm praying that someone else is going to do something about their sin in their life, about their marriage. I'm just going to pray, God, from way back here. It's none of my business. I don't want to get involved. I'm going to pray and not take any action of my own. No, Jesus didn't say if your brother or sister sins, don't pray and then go. He says, no, just go and point out their faults. Between who? Between the two of you. You don't need to go on a mountaintop and scream out what your brother or sister did. You don't need to come up on the stage and go, well, or you don't need to do this, which we do sometimes. You don't pray and sort of gossip in your prayer, right? Like, God, I want to pray for Billy. I don't need to give you his last name, but it starts with an F. And you know what Billy's going through, right? And I want to pray for him. And so we sort of bring that gossip within our prayer life. He's not saying that. He's saying, if your brother or your sister sins, go and point out their fault between the two of you. Which, how often does that come out good? How often does that feel loving in the moment from the other person? Not often. But that's what love requires of us. It's not about minding our own business and saying they're making their choices, they're adults, it's their problem now. No, if they're a part of your community, if you've got someone within your community group, within your connect group, within your Christian community. Now, I'm not talking about people that have not submitted their life to the lordship of Christ, because they haven't agreed to fall under the same lifestyle, the same values, the same lordship as you have. But for people that are within your church community, your connect group, if you know that they are just, they've got sinful behavior, things that, and you can see that things aren't going to end well, go and point out their fault between the two of you out of the love, out of trying to get that lost sheep back in the herd. He continues though. Sorry. So what we're saying is it's none of my business, and Jesus says, I just made it your business. Right? Their problem is none of my business, and through this parable that Jesus is sharing, he says, look, I just made it your business. It's not just about me that goes finds the lost sheep. You are a part of this too. You're not just going to pray them back. You got to get your hands dirty. If they listen to you, you have won them over. Now, I think he says if they will listen to you, we probably won't to start with. Right? Who likes having their faults pointed out right away? We put our defense shields up. We go, how dare you? We go, that's none of your business. Because they can't see the care and the love that's coming from you. And maybe, just maybe, a few weeks later, or a few months later, or a few years later, whether it's your children or your mother-in-law or your brother-in-law, maybe they'll go, thanks so much for not saying yes to your indifference, but for calling out my behavior. But maybe they won't. Maybe this is going to harm your relationship. But maybe you can save something far more important. He continues though. He says, but if they will not listen, if they refuse to listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, to which we say, are we in court? Like, why are we doing this? Now, he's not saying bring complete strangers, but he's saying, hey, if they don't listen, bring a couple from your connect group who also have the best intentions for this person, and try to figure this out together. Who does that? You're probably sitting here going, I'm not doing that. Right? That's not me. Good shepherds do that. Your heavenly Father and people who aren't going to hide behind sensitivity or indifference do that. That's who does that. And then he says, if they still refuse to listen, and you're like, surely not, right? Surely we're not going to take things to the next level because this is so uncomfortable. Surely if they've stopped listening, then we're just sort of done. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the assembly. Take it to the community. Now, again, I'm not saying for like the church come up front, but if they are in a community of believers that want to spur one another on, that want to love for one another, that want to care for one another, and we can see that this person's making choices that's going to ruin their lives and someone else's lives. Don't pay attention to the indifference. Don't pay attention to the fear of rejection. Don't say it's none of my business, and let's get our hands dirty and try to do what's best for this person, even if they can't see that that is what is best for them. Try to restore them. So, if they still refuse to listen, tell it to the assembly. And if they refuse to listen, even to the assembly, treat them as you would a Gentile or a tax collector. Now, I've heard this been misrepresented so many times. A lot of people will say, then you just got to cut them out of your life. That's not true. You just need to recognize that they don't fall under the same values as you do. Maybe they aren't under the lordship of Christ. Maybe you just need to treat them that they are not about the kingdom of heaven, and they're sort of in the kingdom of this earth. You just need to change your perspective. It's not saying you cut them out from your life, but it's saying, hey, they've just got a different worldview than I do. And that's when back off. It's like, I've done what I can. I have said no to the indifference. I haven't said it's none of my business. I've out of my love and out of my care for you, I've done everything that I can to help restore you and bring you back to the herd. But it looks like you don't hold the same worldview. It is not your business now. The assumption going into these conversations with the person is that you came from common ground, but apparently it isn't so. So if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. And here's the reality. We are to do this whether we feel like it or not. We're to do this whether we feel like it or not. And we don't want to say yes to the fear. We don't want to say yes to the discomfort. We don't want to say yes to the apprehension. We don't want to say yes to indifference, because these things are going to rise up. Because it is countercultural to do what we're talking about. But when we're in these moments, what we have to ask this question is, what does love require of me? What does love require of me? What does love require of me? Do I need to get involved? Is it my business? Are they making decisions that is going to cause chaos in their life? That's going to cause hell on earth in their life? Even if it means jeopardizing your relationship with that person, even if it feels so uncomfortable, what does love require of me? When we feel like indifference is coming up in our life, we need to say, indifference, you are not the boss of me. And there's an amazing song that sort of illustrates this, that we're talking about it, and it's talking about the lost sheep and what your heavenly Father is willing to do for you because of how much he loves you, because of how much he loves his children. It says that there's no shadow he won't light up, mountain he won't climb up coming after me. There's no shadow he won't light up, mountain he won't climb up coming after me. And as his hands and feet on earth, there's no shadows that we won't light up. There is no mountain that we won't climb up to make sure that those who have stumbled away, that have wandered off, will come back into the community, come back into the herd. He continues and says, no wall he won't kick down, no lie he won't tear down, coming after me. I'm so glad that God didn't decide to back off when I veered off, so I'm not going to back off when my brother or my sister veers off as well. There's nothing, he will chase me down. He fights till I'm found. He leaves the 99. In my case, when I need to be chased down, 100% of the time, it's through someone who didn't let fear or intimidation be the boss of them. It wasn't some audible voice or some writing in the cloud saying, hey, you got to come back. It's always through somebody that was obedient and not letting indifference be the boss of them. And so, while I've been sharing this message, as uncomfortable as it is, there is somebody in your life that has come to mind. While I've been sharing this message, there is somebody that you go, you know what? I have let indifference become the boss of me. I have said this is none of my business. I have backed off because it's too uncomfortable. I'm afraid that it's going to damage our relationships. I'm afraid that it's going to break, that we won't be talking anymore. I'm so riddled with fear about what it will do between us and them, that I'm letting my concern disguise itself. And so the question that I have for you is there somebody that needs to hear from you? Is there somebody that you know in your life that you see the direction that they're going, the behaviors that they have, the sin in their life, and you've said for far too long, that's just none of my business? Is there somebody that needs to hear from you, whether you feel like them hearing from you or not? He continues with the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I'm glad he didn't do the comfortable thing, that he did the reckless thing and he announced forgiveness ahead of time. He did the reckless thing by sending his son to die on the cross so that we could be reconciled to him. Reckless, why? Because he is not sure whether we would accept the gift or not. But he said, you know what? I love these people so much that I'm going to give my son to pay the sacrifice for their sins so that I can be in relationship with them. And so, church, whether we feel like it or not, whether it feels reckless or not, whether you feel fearful or not, somebody needs to hear from you. And let's not let indifference be the boss of us. God, we thank you for this time. We thank you for Jesus and what he did. God, we thank you for your love for us, your reckless love for us, God. And we just say we love you. And when we've wandered off or when we've stumbled away, God, thank you that when we came back, that there was a party in heaven for us. So God, as we go into these holidays and as we go from church this morning, for those names that have come to mind, God, I pray that we wouldn't let fear be the boss of us, that we wouldn't let indifference be the boss of us, but we would say what needs to be said out of love and out of caring for that person. Praise these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.